deGrasse Tyson and Richard Dawkins discuss science, religion, and evolution. StarTalk YouTube channel, that's deGrasse Tyson. Physicist and biologist literally go together, and they cover the where we designed ideas. And of course, I've already learned quite a bit on the first reaction. If you haven't checked that out, go in the description. You should be able to find it there. And we're going to continue where we left off. Like flies on the wall, watching two great minds discuss something very deep. I'm learning so much, and I hope that you'll join the family, becoming a subscriber of this YouTube channel. It's free. Just press subscribe, then click the bell and hit all. You'll be notified every time we do a reaction. Sincerely appreciate you. Go ahead and like the video now. Drop a comment down below, letting the algorithm pay attention, and share this to your communities. Let's continue with these bright minds.
Or a knee joint or anything living. So that's the Blind Watchmaker argument. Natural selection is the blind watchmaker. It produces results that are like watches. They're beautifully designed. Eyes are beautifully designed. Certain flaws, but they are beautifully designed. And they come about not through any design process, not through any deliberate design, but through the blind watchmaker, which is natural selection. So
that's hard for people to accept, especially.
Very hard. Neil gets it. Neil understands how this is difficult for regular Joes like me to understand and swallow the pill of how do we get complexity blind? A blind watchmaker? Nature itself made us. Wouldn't you then possibly, like Spinoza, look to nature and say maybe nature itself is something more that we don't understand, that brought us about, even if evolution is fact and all that comes with that? So, you know, in our minds, like, we try to make sense of it, and it's hard to imagine that, like, just random mutation would cause this to be the way it is, you know, where we've made it today. It's just hard.
Especially if they're deeply religious.
Yes.
Because they already have an account.
Yes.
Now you're saying one of the acts of their God is some random force operating.
He didn't have to be there at all.
He didn't have to be there at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think where people get confused, and even some of our people have made this mistake, Fred Hoyle, who was the architect of the steady state universe, who pejoratively invented the name Big Bang to describe the universe beginning in one point. He said that in a pejorative way. He wanted the universe to be a steady state. He did a calculation for how you would get an eye, a fully functioning eye, and how long that would take. And it was some impossibly, 10 to the some very high power number of years, given the rate at which you have defects in a genome. And correct me if I'm wrong, the rebuttal to that is natural selection is not completely random.
Well, no, that's right. It actually wasn't an eye. It was a hemoglobin molecule, but it's the same argument anyways.
Mm-hmm.
What he overlooked was that it doesn't happen all in one go. He imagined all the bits coming together at random.
And that's one case that doesn't work, and it has another random thing that doesn't work.
Yes.
And you do that forever.
You do that forever. Of course you want to, but what you need is, let's use the eye, even though he didn't. You need a slightly less good eye, and then a slightly less good eye, and a slightly less good eye. And if you start with just a sheet of light-sensitive cells, which just detect whether it's light or dark, that's useful. It's not light.
It's better than not having it.
It's better than not having it. You can tell when it's night or day. You can tell whether there's a predator flying overhead. And then if you have a slightly cup-shaped, if you bend that retina from a flat thing into a slight cup, then if it's coming from that direction, it hits that side of the. We are on video, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you get, it's not an image, but it gives a slight directionality. And then you close up and you start to get a pinhole camera. It's a very crude, it's out of focus, but it's sort of an image. And then you need a little bit of transparent gunk in there. It's not a proper lens, but it does something like a lens. And all these stages, one by one, they step by step, they incrementally improve.
And every improvement is the new starting place for the variations at that generation.
That's right, and then you get improvement.
Because every generation is not starting from zero.
That's right, yes.
So the Blind Watchmaker, I just thought that was brilliantly written, and it was my benchmark for if I were to ever write a book for the public I want to be this articulate.
Oh, wow, that's high praise, Neil.
I just want you to know. I just want you to know that.
Thank you for that.
Okay, let the record show.
That's interesting. Just to point out that the math of the random mutations of a current, right, complex hemoglobin or a current eye, yeah, the number would be so impossibly large, and you're not going to get it. But if you go backwards into a very, very primitive form of something that's just light and dark, or any type of sensitivity to something that allows them to survive better in that environment, that is where you would begin. We're starting in complexity where we're at, and we're going, oh, there's no way we could have had this. Well, if you go back to where it wasn't this and it was something much less complex, then you gradually see that evolution take place. And even then, at its start, it may be very complex, but it's not nearly complex like it is now.
Climbing mountain probable.
Well, that's what we've just been talking about.
Yes.
Mountain probable is
just that metaphor.
It's a metaphor where you've got a mountain with a sheer cliff, a vertical cliff, and on the top of the cliff is an eye. And to produce the eye in the Fred Hoyle manner would be to leap from the bottom of the cliff to the top in one go. You cannot do it. If you go around the other side of the mountain, you find a nice gentle slope. And so you just climb step by step, and you reach the summit.
Okay. So if you think it got there in one fell swoop, there's no, of course you're going to invent a God, because
That's right.
But not imagining that there's another way.
Yes.
You're stuck in one religious philosophy versus any other philosophy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Got that. And
isn't it interesting to see modern Christian apologists who totally accept evolution but still want to insert God in there? And you kind of go, where does God need to be in this? And they'll find really complicated, complex things where these gaps in our knowledge or limits in our understanding still fit God into that picture. And you go, like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, once we figure that out, and then what? Are you going to you put God somewhere else where we don't know? Probably.
And this one, much was written about unweaving the rainbow. So tell me about that.
Okay.
That was, we're up to 1998 now. Mm-hmm.
That comes from Keats.
I did not know that.
Keats complained about Newton spoiling all the poetry of the rainbow by explaining it. And so my point was the point which you've made often enough. That actually, there's far more poetry in really understanding the spectrum.
So did I tell you this? Do you remember there was this, it was on YouTube, it was just called Double Rainbow Guy. Have you ever seen this?
No.
Double Rainbow. You should check it out.
Okay.
Okay, this is now, back when social media was just people posting things. It wasn't the cesspool that it is today.
Yes.
So he was hiking somewhere. There's some guy, back when you needed a camcorder to take videos,
yes,
not a cell phone. He's hiking in, was it Sierra Madres? I don't remember where. And you hear him sort of narrating his, oh, that's a nice cliff. Then he turns a corner and he says, oh, a rainbow. Oh my gosh, what could it mean? Oh, a double rainbow. Oh my gosh. And he's tearing. You don't see him, but you can easily interpret just his emotions and his breath. And then he goes prostrate to the ground.
Yes.
And he can't contain himself. What does it mean? This is a sign. And so I felt bad doing this. You might be proud of me, but I felt bad doing this. I tweeted, I put a link to this video, and I said, this is how you behave if you've never studied physics.
Yes.
But I thought that was kind of mean. He's having his moment.
Well, in a way, that's what Keats was doing. And that's
to
what
Newton.
Yes, that's right. But anyway, I can cap your story in the opposite direction. I read a story about a woman in California. She had a lawn sprinkler, and she saw a rainbow in the lawn sprinkler, and she said, what are they doing to our water supply?
That's funny. Oh my gosh.
That's so funny. One is in awe, it must be God. The other's going, what are they doing to she doesn't even understand what the rainbow is.
So I did not know that Keats had that to say about Newton, because Newton, he decoded the rainbow.
Yes.
That was his thing. It's what he did.
One of his things.
Oh, by the way, you mentioned how beautiful the eye is, even with some flaws. As an astrophysicist, when I would learn this very early, when I took classes here, actually, when I was in middle school at the Hayden Planetarium. That's when I learned about the entire electromagnetic spectrum, and that the visible part of the spectrum is tiny.
Yes.
It's not even a full octave.
That's right.
Of what's out there. And then I was just disappointed with my sight. I said, is this the best nature could
get? X-rays.
Is this, let me go back in line and see what else is there. And later on in Star Trek The Next Generation, there'd be a character called Geordi. He had a visor, VISOR, which was an acronym, Visual Instrument Sight Organ Replacement. And so early acronym days. So yeah, I'd be intrigued by what the world would look like that way. For example, if someone's calling you on your cell phone, that would be like radiant microwaves while that's happening. That'd be just kind of cool. Or if you go by the countryside and you see radio towers, they would be the brightest things on the horizon. And now they're just hunks of metal. And so they get him to look at scenes that they're coming upon. It's high in X-rays, it's high in this, it's high in that.
Yes.
And then I worried that if you could see all bands of light, that would be very visually noisy, wouldn't it?
Yes. I mean, if you see right through to radio waves, where you wouldn't, well,
then everything becomes transparent.
Long wavelengths, yes.
Then there are no walls in this office.
You wouldn't see things. That's right.
You have coined this term, and we've even appeared on stage together under this title, The Poetry of Reality. And I'm all in. But if you're actually a poet, surely there are parts of reality that are best expressed by a poet. Would you agree?
I suppose so. I've never quite understood. I don't write verse, but I suppose, like you, I try to evoke emotion at the same time as
Otherwise,
science.
It's just a wiki page.
Yes,
right.
that's
You
right.
want some...
And I'm not entirely clear what you mean by poetic. I sort of feel intuitively I know what it means, but I can't quite put it into words. Maybe that's no accident. Yes, I defend in my own mind the idea that science is the poetry of reality. It makes me feel poetic. And I think it makes you feel poetic.
So it might be self-serving on that level. What would matter if others can be convinced of the same? Because otherwise it's just a self-licking ice cream cone.
That's right. And if you're skilled in writing, I think you can bring out others with you.
For me, poetry, art, more broadly, best serves us when it highlights something you might have otherwise missed or never noticed.
It's a good way to put it.
My best example of that was July 21st, 22nd, was it? After we landed on the moon in 1969, the New York Times had a special section, people reacting to the fact that we walked on the moon. And there were all these famous poets of the day. There was Archibald MacLeish and, people who carried the soul of creative expression in the day. And I read these poems. They were awful. We've pierced the sky and touched the sky. And I'm thinking, none of this is greater than the act of walking on the moon itself. So maybe I don't need artists to interpret that for me. Maybe I need them to interpret the tree that I'm walking by. Then you get Joyce Kilmer's poem, The Tree. I will never see something as lovely as a tree. The arms pressed to the sky. There's in American poetry, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who wrote The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. That might not be heralded as great poetry, but we all know it here in America. And that's a poem about a guy who told other people that the enemy was coming? Is that an important person? No. Yet we all know that person's name because it's a poem about him. You do not know that corresponding person for any other war that has ever been fought in the history of the world. The person who told other people that the enemy was coming. That is not a person. But for us it is because it was a poem about him. It was somebody who would otherwise go forgotten. So for me, art is best when it captures that. I don't need artists saying, oh, I saw this Hubble photo. Here's my painting of that Hubble photo. I don't need that because I got the Hubble photo. Give me a point of view that science does not give me. Then we can hang out together in the sandbox. That's how I feel about it.
The tree poem you mentioned, that's a religious poem. I mean,
Well,
only God can make a tree.
At the end, but no, come on, God. The God was just in the culture. So
Okay.
is it religious when you say goodbye, when that draws from God be with you? It's just a cultural expression.
Think of Carl Sagan's chapter headings. They inspire me, just every single one of his chapter headings.
Yes. His widow,
yes.
Andrian, who is highly literate unto herself and co-author of all three cosmoses, even the two that I have.
Isn't it awesome just listening to them bounce their minds back and forward, and just listening to back and forth, and listening to Neil and him vibing into some interesting depths here about ideas.
Privilege of hosting. She was a major force in that poetic voice. I just want to give credit where that's due there.
Across the backbone of night. I mean, that is a poetic phrase. It immediately speaks to me. I see the Milky Way. I'm not sure I meant to. And I guess I try to do something similar, at least in some of my books.
Hey, StarTalk fan.
Okay, seems like another ad popping in. Skipping ahead a little. Here we go.
It's a history of life, but it's going backwards. So it's in the form of a pilgrimage, Chaucerian pilgrimage, going backwards in time. We human pilgrims set off into the past, and we're joined by the chimpanzee pilgrims, and then the gorilla pilgrims, and and then we finally get back to the origin of life. So it's a way of doing the history of life, but do it backwards, because if you do it forwards, then you end up with the idea that humans are kind of the climax, which you don't want. I mean, that's not a good way of looking at it. So if you go backwards, then you start
with... I was getting on your case, but that's brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks for delivering. I want to now read that, okay? Because I missed that one. Here's one we all saw and know about, whether or not we read it, The God Delusion. That put you on a plateau to be identified as one of the four horsemen.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yes. Not a phrase that any of us actually...
It was bestowed upon you?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was Daniel Dennett, Christopher Hitchens,
Sam Harris.
And both of them are passed. Sam Harris and you.
Yes.
Okay. The four horsemen, who have each been quite vocal about their atheism.
Yes.
And the God Delusion, if that's not atheist, I don't know what is.
It is, yes.
In the title.
Yes.
Right. So we spoke about this book before. Didn't you say there were religious groups that wanted people to read it so that they know the face of their enemy? Was that?
I forget. It's quite possible. There are some people who say they were converted to religion by it.
Really?
What?
I'm not quite sure how they managed to get that, but it doesn't say much of my rhetorical skills.
So is this your single biggest selling book, The God Delusion?
Yes, just about, yes. Yeah. It was equal to The Selfish Gene, maybe.
I've taken you to task on the very first day I met you, and I think it's worth repeating here. The first day I ever knew you. Again, like I said, I'd read your books, and I aspired to have the vocabulary, the command of vocabulary that spills off your plate. I took you to task in the front of a group. It was one of the what's the name of that conference? A Beyond Belief conference.
Oh yes.
Which gathered.
Oh yes, that's right.
Which gathered scientists, biologists, theologians, philosophers.
Yes.
And it was to discuss: are we in an era beyond where belief matters?
Yes.
Does belief still matter? So it was quite the juxtaposition of points of view. You and I are up on front in a panel. Two other people are there. And I heard you speak. I'd only ever read what you wrote. And I heard you speak. It was more articulate and more barbed than anything I'd ever read that you had written. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm glad we're on the same side, because if you had spoke to me, I'd feel like a complete idiot. I would feel not worthy of life. And then I thought, you are so potent. Is this turning people off because they reject it? Because you are not investing in how they think. Everybody has little receptors for receiving information. And if you're just going to say, I'm right, and I know I'm right, and you all are just wrong and you're idiots, maybe that's not as effective as you can be. So I challenged you to be a little more sensitive to people who are just trying to explore the world, and that you could be more effective than you are. Do you remember your reply to me?
I said, I gratefully accept the rebuke.
Yeah, by the way, in that moment, there was like 5 seconds of silence because I'm just some young whippersnapper and you're like story famous guy on stage. Nobody made a sound. No. Just in that moment of silence, is how is he going to react? It was one of these, what's he going to say? In that moment, it was total silence. And then you broke the silence with,
I gratefully accept the rebuke.
Yes. And then people were calmed after that. Yes, and you gave a worse example. What was it? You remember? The editor.
The editor of New Scientist, who was asked, "What is your policy at New Scientist magazine?" And he said, "Our policy at New Scientist magazine is science is interesting. If you don't agree, you can fuck off."
Look, these guys are awesome. I love listening to both Neil deGrasse Tyson, Richard Dawkins. I hope you've enjoyed it. Listen, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Love listening to them, but you heard it. Neil said he's on the same side. He just wishes they were more, these atheists were a little more sensitive to understanding where people are coming from. That empathy, I think, is important. And some people have that more than others. And I think Neil has that kind of empathy. While you need your Dawkins, you need your Hitchens, you need your Dennett's, and you need your Harrises, and you need your Neil deGrasse Tysons. You need everybody with different sensitivities, different, abrasiveness, different things that you bring to the table. But it's group-wise, that collective critical thinking and scientific mind that I think helps push us forward. But again, I have so much to learn. So much to learn. I know that you do too. We all do, right? And we're still doing that. And that's part of the journey. I hope you will be part of our journey by subscribing. Check the bell, hit all. Make sure you like this video so YouTube compliments it. Subscribe, share it, and comment down below. Until next time, see you then.